And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mansu, and with me I have here Mr. David Halevi, an American author living in Israel who also does volunteering work with the IDF in regards to trauma and etc. And by the way, I'm back from Israel. Got back yesterday, last night. Actually, got back today, and we're going to start pumping out the live shows as far as we can go. In today's episode, we're going to jump at a very interesting podcast that came recently by Tucker Carlson, and we're going to discuss it in the most realistic way, boots on the ground, and try to give you what is real, what is false, and what's in between. Now, we have here a podcast that is said at some point every Holocaust museum will be forced to include an exhibit of what's happening in Gaza right now. It's only a matter of time. I love it when Tucker say these things as if it's a fact. Dr. Nick Munyard of Oxford University Medical School has been a witness to the genocide. Now, this guy is a doctor who works with a lot of doctors apparently in the West Bank. And we're going to go through it. I'm seeing a comment here from my friend, Dumisani Washington. Great guy, pastor from the U.S. And he said this. He said, do you notice that after you were beaten by a demon, you became more of an anti-Semite? I do it. Yeah, that kind of, we've seen that happening. But before we jump in, David, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Excited to be here as always. Love seeing your beautiful face, and I'm excited to get into this. You know, hopefully educate some people on people who actually know what's going on.
Yeah. For like I said, David is an American living in Israel. He's living right now among Israelis, and he's also have children that went to the IDF.
Yeah. So I'm
an immigrant.
You know, I'm working to being an Israeli as far as like attitude and pushiness.
Yeah, a long way to go. We need to see you shoving your way through a shawarma shop with your elbows. Then we'll see.
Exactly.
But you have children who are in the IDF. You were born and raised in America. You worked in Texas. So you understand both worlds very well.
Right.
And I was an officer in the IDF, and we're gonna help you just kind of by listening right now to see what's going on, because this is a big channel, Tucker Carlson, and he's inviting very world, at least academic respected guests like Nick Munyard from Oxford University. But they're talking a lot of things that I don't want to jump in too fast and say nonsense, but let's hear it together and then talk about it.
So I went to Gaza for the first.
What did you like? It's weird maybe for Americans to hear that, because the Palestinians have been so thoroughly maligned by our media for so long that people think of them as violent and primitive. What did you like about the Palestinians?
They're the kindest people I've met. They're profoundly resilient, particularly in Gaza, but they're generous, they're kind, very welcoming.
I want to stop there. I'm sure there is kind people in Gaza. I actually know. I was in Gaza. I've met kind people, but they were always hiding undercover, and their life was, in real danger. On October 7, when Hamas broke in to Israel, they invaded Israel. Gaza invaded Israel, and they live streamed it. Gazans woke up to the live streaming of videos of beheading of women and children, of shooting babies and shooting animals and cattle and elderly. And then as they were going through this, some of these bodies were dragged into Gaza. Some are alive, some are dead. And then the Gazans ran to the street at random, not only in one location, like in all around. So statistically, that was a very good representation of the mindset of Gaza. You can come and say one neighborhood, one particular group, okay, but at random, in different places. In the world of psychology, when I was studying psychology, they used to say, if you want to get a real research, you need to get random groups of 30 and as many of them. Like, let's say 30 groups of 30, random sample. Then you get a real sampling. There's less chance that you just picked one neighborhood. There were more than 30, and there were more than 30 locations. So statistically speaking, this was like a very good representation of Gaza. And the reaction was chasing bodies in the streets, spitting on them, hitting them, chanting, going around trying to rip them to pieces so they can have blood in their hand, and whoever goes blood in their hand goes and celebrate with that. And then later on, when the statistic polls came, it actually showed that, at least in the beginning, more than 80% of Gazans supported October 7, not supported resisting Israel. supported what October 7th did as it was going. So what is he talking about when he's trying to paint it as a very lovely society? I'm sure there's lovely people there, but as a society, clearly, without no doubt, there's overwhelming scientific evidence that shows otherwise.
Have always been treated wonderfully by them. And when you go to Gaza, I mean, you see that even to a different level yet again. They are incredibly resilient, incredibly resourceful, but they are the kindest, most generous-hearted, most beautiful people I've ever met in the world.
Really?
Absolutely correct.
All right. So he's an American, and he's saying they are the most kindest that he have ever met in the world. That's a smart guy. I mean, should be. So that means that they're kindest and smarter than the people in Switzerland and the people in Germany. And I'm sure he traveled. Do you think that's like, isn't that a clear sign that he's lying, or he have starting already with a clear agenda? Because what's the kindest people you've ever met? Like, I don't know, traveling around the world, or one of the kindest? Like, give me an example of a place that he felt that people were kind.
Let me turn that down a bit. I think, actually, I think probably the kindest people in the world, arguably, are from my hometown in West Texas, where I was born and raised. And Texas is actually, the term Texas comes from a Native American tribe that lived there when the Spaniards came in from Spain, and they met these people and they were yelling this word over and over again. Filipinos, yep, probably up there for sure.
I agree. Filipinos are super kind. Texans are super
nice,
kind.
super kind. But Texas literally means friendly, the term. And then my hometown was voted friendliest town in Texas.
Really?
So I think that says everything. But regardless, I think there's some clear bias here. And we both know, and you can speak to this more than I can, but we both know that the Palestinian authorities, which control who comes in and who goes out, who comes in certainly as a foreign professor to teach, which is one of the roles that Dr. Maynard had here in the West Bank and in Gaza. They are not choosing random people, and they are not allowing random doctors to come in. They're going to bring people in that are already sympathetic to their cause and to their, quite frankly, propagandist agenda. So
collaborating
not to go too far on that, but they're not looking for someone to come in and give them trouble. They're looking for someone who already sympathizes with what they believe to be true.
Mm-hmm. I know actually humanitarian aid workers that used to go to Gaza. Like, I know them personally very well. I can't say why and how because I don't want to put them in danger, but I knew them extremely well. And they will be shown a complete different picture of Gaza when they go in. Hamas will go and escort them and take them, and will have security around them because they will be killed if they go outside. That's how simple it is. And they'll have like strict rules. You can't go outside these gates. It's Jurassic Park out there. And they needed that for propaganda. Now, whenever someone enters Gaza, not through these propaganda-approved kind of corridors. For example, there was this Italian man, if you remember that story, that went into Gaza to prove that they're kind and nice and that Israel is bad. And then later on, he was kidnapped by Gazans and beheaded live on camera by the Gazans. So that's one of several cases where this is, so there's an Italian activist, I forgot his name exactly, but this is like a clear case of what is happening in Gaza in the streets. Forget the fact that there's actually chanting of death to America, death to Israel there. So we can see already that this professor is starting with an extreme deliberate bias towards this. Because if he would come and say Gaza is a violent place, and there's a lot of jihadist problems, a place that, deprive women and children of their rights, but there's still good people there, I would be with him. Right. But he didn't start that way. He's painting it like Gaza is better than Texas and Switzerland.
Yeah, it is. To me, that's an insane statement. But I don't know if we'll get back to this. I want to piggyback on something you said just a minute ago regarding, and that's really interesting about the groups of 30 to be a kind of a litmus test, right, of a population of civilians. Number one, we know for certain because they bragged about it, civilians came in, not just the Hamas operatives that came in to slaughter us on October 7th, but civilians came in with them to loot, to kill, to pillage, to rape, etc. Right? Not even people that were originally planned to come in with how many ever it was, 6,000 militants. So that's number one. Civilians came in to do the damage and the raping and the pillaging and killing with them. But Also, because Tucker is gonna, well, he kind of posted this video with the statement about Holocaust museums should be, or in the future will be, forced to put in exhibits about the alleged genocide in Gaza, where he doesn't think it's alleged, he thinks it's a fact. But if we just stop for a moment and look at the civilian population of Europe during the Holocaust and what the civilian population of Europe did, you had both civilian populations that assisted in the Holocaust, getting Jews on trains, Polish people that went out and murdered their neighbors, participated in pogroms, but you also had large populations that protected Jews, that helped to get Jews out of those countries, that hid them in their homes, that all of these things. And so that was that's an interesting study in and of itself of a civilian population that was both on the wrong side and the right side of history. The United States, the Israeli government, we offered $5 million rewards to civilians in Gaza for any information that brought us to rescuing hostages when our hostages were trapped in Gaza. Not only did we not, to my knowledge, do a single payout of that, but no one did what the Europeans did during the Holocaust. No one stepped up and said, you know what, I'm going to risk my life to save these innocent civilians that were kidnapped from Israel, because that's the holy thing to do, because that's the right thing to do. Nobody did that. In fact, what we found out is that the civilians in Gaza were actually the ones enslaving our hostages from Israel. And not just Jews, Arabs, Thailandese, Russians, right? Americans. And so just, again, I don't know if we'll get back to it, but he's talking about the civilian population in Gaza.
That's true.
The facts are on the ground. They're right in front of our face, and we can't ignore that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because that's a very good, measure stand for if there is any good, innocent, brave civilians in your society, ones who are willing to risk their own life for the greater good. We saw that under Nazi Germany. We have not seen a single one of that in Gaza, which is a very interesting, and you can take it in many ways. That was a Christian culture, that was a Muslim culture, the way they look at life, and etc. But let's keep going, because I think there's a lot here.
I can't overstate the degree to which Americans have been told for decades that the people in Gaza are barely human. And that was not.
Yeah, can we pause there for a second,
I went
Mansour?
to Gaza the first.
Just real quick. I would challenge Tucker to pull up a single media clip that is painting Palestinians as not being human. A single Israeli clip, news media, that paints Palestinians as not being human. That's just a lie. That is a complete lie. Now, you can look at the Islamic Jihad side of the equation. You can look at Al Jazeera, which paints Israelis as being all the terrible things that he is just suggesting that the world paints Palestinians. But that is not a narrative that we hear in Israel. That is certainly not a narrative.
School books. You can go to school books. Go to school books in Gaza, in Palestine, in Jordan, in many Muslim countries, and you'll see how in the school curriculum for children, they're painting Jews and Christians not as humans, as infidels that need to be killed. So they're doing it on steroids. We're not doing it. But here, Tucker is twisting it as if America is doing it, the West is doing it, but the Gazans are not. Very interesting narrative that he's trying to push there.
I'm in 2010, and it was just an initial sort of trip to teach, and then ever since then I've been taking a team of doctors from Oxford to teach medical students there.
What was Gaza like? Can you describe it in 2010?
Yeah, it was under occupation, so it was it's been variously described as a large prison or concentration camp, and people might take issue with that terminology, but what lies behind that is the fact that the 99% plus of the population have never ever been able to leave their country, so they are in prison there. So we went in through the most remarkable security.
I want to stop here because people hear that and then they go, oh my God, they're so poor. October 7 is what happened when Gazans are allowed to leave. That's exactly why Israel was not allowing them to leave, because Gaza became a terrorist nest of Hamas, which is a terrorist organizations. Before Israel had the border with Gaza and these regulations, there were intifadas, there were bus, shooting, school shooting, like they will walk into a kindergarten and blow themselves off. Like just unimaginable. On a weekly basis, there's a company called Kadisha in Israel, which are the ones to go and collect the remnants of the dead so they can have a burial. they had teams that were going around climbing on trees to bring pieces of children who were exploding and were hanging on windows and on air conditioning on the side of the wall, face and teeth and like skin, so they can put them in a bag, do DNA tests, so this family that doesn't have a body left of their child can have a proper burial. That is the level of what Israel had to deal with when Palestinians were allowed to leave Palestine. So that is something that is very important to put out there. You can't just throw, oh, they're not allowed to leave. Why are they not allowed to leave? What's preventing them from going out of Gaza? Acts of terrorism and a behavior of a death cult. If they would have stopped that, they would have been able to leave, because I grew up in Israel when they were allowed to leave.
Right.
I lived when they were allowed to leave, and I lived when they were stopped to be allowed to leave. And that was exactly the reason. Bodies gathered all around the streets and people going collecting the remnants of their loved ones twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. It was happening in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, in Haifa, all places. By the way, not only Jews were killed.
Right.
Muslims, Christians, Israelis. So that is the Gaza.
And we all know personally, right? We all know personally people that were murdered that way. Like one of my friend's daughters was murdered on a bus bombing when she was 12 years old, right?
I know that story.
Everyone is connected to those stories. And here's the deal. It's not like, and you're right, that's what happens. And that's what happened before we, obviously the restrictions occurred. But if you drive right now, you go down to the Gaza envelope and look who has the greater border between Gaza and Israel or Gaza and Egypt.
Oh,
and you're going to look at the Gaza and Egypt border and go, oh my gosh, that is a wall, right? Because Egypt knows that you can't let these people come out, right? But even saying that, I want to clarify, Palestinians have passports. They can apply to leave. They can fly to other countries if they are cleared to do so. By whom? By Egypt, by Israel, etc. And so the claim that this is some kind of open air prison is not true, at least not before October 7th. After October 7th, of course, we were not going to let anybody.
Mm-hmm. He froze a little bit. Someone is saying here, Mansour can know if Gazastan did lessons as mindfulness in Gaza. Mindful? I don't know. You're back. I think
okay, sorry. I was just going to clarify that if we look at the war of Ukraine and Russia, Ukrainians fled Ukraine. Some of them came to Israel. Some of them went to the U.S. Some went to the rest of Europe because they wanted to get out of the war. Okay. We weren't going to let Gazans come into Israel because of what they'd just done. But Egypt has denied Gazans entry. The civilians that wanted to leave, the civilians that said, I'm done with Hamas, I don't want to be part of this, weren't allowed to leave. And it wasn't us doing it, it was Egypt.
Yeah.
And no one put pressure on Egypt to do that. No one put pressure on Egypt. Hey, why don't you let these 2 million people leave so that Israel can come in and get their hostages?
None of the Arab world. No one offered. Not Jordan, not Saudi Arabia, no one. Not a single, not the Emirates, none of the Arab Muslim countries offered, bring us the women and children, we'll take care of them. You guys go from Hamas, none of them. The entire West offered to help Ukraine and other countries because, again, it's a different culture, different mentality. Let's keep hearing.
From Israel, we went through the Erez crossing in northern Gaza. That first trip took us most of the day to get through the security. And we had 10 days, I think, in Gaza.
Wait, as a Western physician, it took you most of the day to get from Israel into Gaza?
Yeah.
Because of the Israeli security?
Because the Israeli security. It took hours getting through the most remarkably intense security.
It sounds like he tries to leech on everything that might make, as a Western physician, guys, this is the war. This is like, how long will it take you as a physician to move from South Korea to North Korea? How long?
Yeah.
As a Western physician that didn't allow you to go to North Korea from South Korea? Yes, I'm a doctor. They didn't allow me. Like, my God. Like, how can you take him seriously? Sorry. I promise that I'll try to take Tucker seriously here. Let's keep watching.
Being grilled repeatedly about why we were going there.
Because it's crazy.
What we were doing, why we were going there. Why didn't we go to Africa instead? Why were we going to Gaza? If we wanted to help people, why didn't we go to African countries? Literally those sort of questions we were being asked.
Is this the same border that Hamas came over on October 7th?
No. So Erez crossing is the very top of Gaza, the northern border with Israel. Hamas came out through the southern so near the bottom of Gaza. Erez crossing was destroyed very early on in this conflict, so it's not being used at all. Certainly none of the humanitarian teams that have gone in through that at all. It's sort of no pass area. But you get into Gaza, and I remember vividly my first visit there in 2010, meeting these people who were just so welcoming. They were so delighted that we'd gone to visit them, and the hospitality was just remarkable. And that's been the way ever since. And indeed, every year I've been going there, I've been taking new people most times, and everyone falls in love with the Palestinian people. They all want to go back.
That's because you're a useful idiot on steroids. You're like an amplifier, megaphone of useful idiotness. That's why they're tricking you to think that, oh, we like you so much.
Those early years, I was just teaching every year. And I've been doing that until 2022. In fact, we had a teaching trip planned for November 23, and that was clearly cancelled. But I've also
I wonder why that was canceled. Oh, because those people that you were teaching in those hospitals that had Hamas infrastructure, doctors working for Hamas headquarters underneath those hospitals that house missile launchers and grenade launchers and mortar launchers, and where they also took our hostages when they were kidnapping them. That's the hospital you were teaching at. That's okay.
Yeah, because they had dungeons, literal dungeons for torture under the hospital. The fact that he's not embarrassed to stand up and say, I got literally played, dude. They've had torture dungeons under these hospitals. They've had terrorists working in these hospitals. They had weapons hidden in the hospitals under the machines. They had rockets, launchers in some of these wardrooms. They've taken a hospital and used it as a military base of terrorism and operation. I was fooled. The fact that he's not ashamed shows you either that he actually knew about it and he's still playing the game, or that he just doesn't understand how ridiculous he's making himself sound by actually admitting that he was so easily tricked by terrorists.
Separate to that in carrying out and teaching cancer surgery. That's what I do in Oxford. So helping them develop their cancer services and teaching my specialty of cancer as well.
What did it look like in 2010? It was occupied, as you said, but what was the infrastructure like? Gaza City, how would you describe it?
Wait a second. He's saying, just real quick on Mansour, in 2010, I will never call it an occupation. It's our land. But 2010, we had pulled out in 2005.
Yeah.
We ripped our people from their homes against their will. Farmers, businessmen, families that had been there for several generations at that point. We ripped them out of their homes. They elected Hamas in 2006. 2010, Israel has zero presence. Am I correct?
You're very correct. And you know what they did also? We left them I was there. We left them greenhouses. We left them labs. They tore the greenhouses and used the equipment to build bombs. They torn all the pipelines for agriculture. And they even were so proud to show themselves doing it and then take it to a factory that they built to build rockets. So you have people that were given a fertile, beautiful land that was, miraculously, taken care of by the Jews who brought life into the desert. And the first thing they do is to destroy it all and make it into means of destructions and death, and start using their own hospitals as military bases of operation.
And that's a really good point, because the narrative of Israel creating a concentration camp in Gaza is a narrative that will never hold up, because here it's yours. You do whatever you want. You develop how you want. You want to put in airports. You want to put an international airport in and fly to other countries and be connected to the entire world. Be our guest. You can do all of those things, right? I mean, it would have taken some peace agreements first. They would have had to recognize that Israel existed, because we're not going to let Hamas have an airport so they can fly in and out and bomb us. But the point is, they had the opportunity to develop an amazingly beautiful place into its own country, its own nation, its sovereign territory. Instead, they turned it into a bomb and missile making factory with 500 kilometers of basement tunnels to murder their neighbors next door. So we're not the ones that created that scenario. They're the ones that created that scenario.
it's so obvious. Like, you don't need to be very smart to actually know that. It's so well documented and obvious, and I'm sure he, as a doctor who went there, have all the information in the world to actually know that.
Of wreckage of destroyed buildings, because this was not. It's worth pointing out that every single trip I've ever been into Gaza, and I've been many times in those 18 to 16 years, I've seen aerial bombardment. So it's a way of life there. Every trip I've
By Israel.
aerial bombardments on Gaza by the Israeli Air Force. So, and this was, I was there in 2010, not long after the 2008 massive military assault on Gaza. So the destruction you see is remarkable. There's loads of buildings have been destroyed, and each time you go, you see more of that. I remember going in 2015, just after 2014 Operation Protective Edge, which you may remember, which was about a 58-day military assault. I think the destruction of buildings was just like something I'd never seen before. So
Why is he not mentioning even once Hamas?
Not
You
once.
see, if you come unaware of this conflict and just jump into this podcast, all you hear is Gazans are poor, they're loveliest people in the world, they're kind, they're hospitable, and they're just oppressed, and it's bombing and destruction and this. Like, not even once is he mentioning that there is terrorists there that are running the country, that are trying to annihilate Israel. So the fact that he's not mentioning that, for me, completely takes any legitimacy that this guy, no one should listen to him.
It completely diminishes any kind of credibility. But I know you've probably said it a million times, Mansour, but for the new listener, explain 2014 Operation Protective Edge. It's known as the 50-Day War. It was kind of the first, from my recollection, it was the first time that Hamas said, okay, we're really going to bring it to Israel with a massive assault of our missile capabilities. But so obviously he never talked about that Hamas was the aggressor in that war.
Yeah. Not even once. Not even once. Well, I haven't heard it yet.
You have this sort of mixture of mass destruction, but you see Gazans rebuilding the whole time. They're there rebuilding their destroyed houses yet again.
Here, it's so hard to let him talk because it's so easy to debunk it.
Yeah.
More than $5 billion were poured, we're talking billions of dollars were poured into Gaza. For those who don't know, Gaza is not a gigantic, place. It's relatively a small place. And there's about 2 million people living there, give or take. So if you drop so much money into one place with so much aid workers and doctors and engineers, then why the heck is Gaza not looking like Singapore? Why? No, seriously, like why?
Right.
Why is it that their schools are still failing, that their hospitals are, corrupt and barely functioning, that they barely have any pipeline or sewage just going through their streets? Why? Israel pulled out. Israel just said, do whatever you want, and allowed the money. Israel did the mistake, by the way, of allowing the money to go. So when he's mentioning these things, he's ignoring this very crucial, because once you know the answer for that, then everything makes sense, because they never wanted to build something. It was never about building. It was about killing the Jews. It was about genociding the Israelis.
Yeah, here's something from AP News. Total U.S. development humanitarian aid to West Bank and Gaza, over $7 billion since USAID established its mission there. And then we can add, since 1994, $4.2 billion, another roughly 900 million for water and sanitation, 300 million for just general projects, and then another 900 million for needs program 2, which was focused on schools, water, sanitation, and bank and covering roads. So like you said, I mean, we're upwards of probably $9 or $10 billion in the last 30 years.
Yeah. Imagine what can you do with such a budget? It's unbelievable.
Right. So any kind of claim of poverty is certainly okay, but where did the money go? You have to ask the question. And of course, we know where the money went: missiles and tunnels.
Yeah.
But it's a busy, thriving place. You go down to Gaza City where the harbor is, it's busy. There are markets there. There are fishing boats there. They are desperate all the time to get back to normal living. But the resources are very limited. I mean, particularly in the healthcare system there, which is where I've been working, they never have enough resources. Their economy has almost been completely disabled by Israel all that time. So they have very limited resources for everything, for all aspects of living there, but particularly in the healthcare structure.
So in 2010, or let's just say before October 7th, 2023, how would you just, what was the state of the healthcare system in Gaza?
It was, I mean, they practice high quality medicine. The doctors, the nurses, the dietitians, the physiotherapists, the occupational therapists, remarkably talented. And I was teaching the students for years. I know how bright these kids are. They're just remarkably bright. They know so much. A lot of it was sort of didactic teaching, online teaching, which we tried to improve on in our sort of face-to-face teaching. But so their knowledge is remarkable. They practice medicine at a very high level, but they have very limited resources. So in my specialty in cancer surgery, they didn't have the resources to do absolutely everything. So many patients had to, the doctors had to apply to get them transferred, for example, to the West Bank or to Jordan, or sometimes into Israel, to have specialist treatment that couldn't be carried out in Gaza.
Wait,
so they had to work
wait.
with very limited resources.
Did he just say that Israel allows patients from Gaza to go to Israel to receive treatment?
Yep.
I don't remember Nazi Germany offering that service to the Jews in the ghettos. I just don't remember. I don't remember. Actually, as a matter of fact, I know personal stories of Gazans who came out of Gaza into Israel to receive medical treatment. And I also know their impression when they first came. There was a story of a mother that had complications at birth because she was, older at age. And she had twins, that were still in her womb. And there was a complication that one of them died and the other one would die very shortly after. So they said the only place that can save him right now is Israel. So they asked for permission, and I was involved in actually getting them the permission because I knew some people that I hooked up with and connected, and I mentioned that to them, and then they went and managed. It reached all the way to the office of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who approved it. So that lady was taken into Israel, and she delivered a healthy baby. And my friend, who was very close to her in the Israeli hospital, asked her what was her impression. And she said, I'm utterly shocked. And she said, from what? She said, Israel is clean and peaceful. And like people here are friendly. And she said, yeah, what did you think? And she said, Hamas has been telling us all this time that Israel is a desolated place, that they have destroyed Israel with the resistance, and that everybody in Israel is living in poverty, and they're living in fear, and they're very, very evil to one another. And all I see here, I have not seen it, like, it looks much clearer than Gaza. So that's like, imagine the Truman Show or North Korea. That's like how they were living there. That's the level of information that we're getting. And then she went back. Now, that is what happened when you let Gazans come into an Israeli hospital. What happened when you let Israelis or Jews go to Gazan hospitals? They get kidnapped, tortured, executed.
Yep.
Israel allowed Palestinians to come to their hospital. They get treated for cancer, for pregnancy. They get healed. They get better. They go back happy. We send our patients, or they take it, to their hospitals. They get executed, tortured, and killed. That is alone is what needs to be answered to these guys right now. That is what he needs to be asked. That guy needs to have someone there ask him, why is it that Gazan patients or Palestinians come to Israel, they heal, get better, go back happy? Our people go to your hospitals, they get butchered, tortured, executed. Please explain. You see, like he's talking to the choir there. There's no feedback there. This is a very fake conversation.
And I remember an interview, it was just after the 2014 Operation Protective Edge conflict, where a mother brought her son to Israel to have treatment at Shiva Hospital, and there was a news crew there that found out about the story and interviewed her, and they said, "Are why did you bring your child?" Because the medical care here is more than we could get in Gaza. And they said, what do you hope for your son in the future? And she said, well, I hope that he gets better so that he can grow up and to fight jihad for Hamas. So basically Israel's treating her child, making him well so he can grow up to kill us. That's basically what was happening. And this article that Mansour has here, really great story about Lama. This is a Gazan woman who she had. Let me just read a little bit of this. She had her son was born premature, 2.5-month-old son Abdullah. It was Monday, May 10th, 2021, the day in which the conflict between Israel and Hamas had escalated. Gaza, excuse me. The ambulance that brought her and her son to Israel was the last allowed through Erez crossing before it was closed 13 days later. What happens here? Well, Abdullah was born 2 months prematurely with a complicated heart defect. Lama and her husband realized they would need to fight for his life. I was afraid. Abdullah's condition was good and he had lost weight. I prayed to God for help. And a doctor at Shifa Hospital recommended that we send him to where? Israel for treatment. So that's in Shifa Hospital. So she would have gone to Sheva Hospital, in Israel. But according to Dr. Evitar Hubara, senior physician in pediatric intensive care unit at Sheva Hospital, doctors in Gaza performed the wrong operation on Abdullah when he was 2 months old. A week after the operation, his condition began to deteriorate. A week later, he reached us. In a few hours, we needed to stabilize him and keep his blood pressure steady with medication. When he was stable, we started to look into the problem. From the beginning, we explained each step to his mother, and she trusted us with her son. Eventually, we found that Abdullah was suffering from an aortic valve stenosis. Every year, Sheba treats around 5,000 children from the Gaza Strip, another 2,700 children from the West Bank. Regimes that want to commit genocide on a population do not rescue their babies and spend their own taxpayer dollars to save those babies.
That for itself, there's not a single hospital in Israel that would ever recommend, let me send you to Gaza, to the hospital. Not just because of infrastructure.
Right.
It's because these hospitals in Gaza, we've seen it, are used as base of terrorist operations. Like that there's overwhelming evidence of the tunnels under the ground and the militants, and videos showing that they're shooting from these hospitals. And also videos showing that some of the kidnapped Israelis, the first station that they went was into the hospital, and then they changed their clothes with the help of the medical staff inside these hospitals. One of them was a Shifa hospital, by the way. So you have a bunch of Hamas terrorists driving in right now with a bunch of teenager and young, men and women who are kidnapped from the Nova Party. Some of them are like amputated, shot, tortured. They get beat up and spit on in the streets by everyone filming it. And then they had this, plan where we go to the hospital and the team in the hospital was waiting for them. When they went in, let me pimp my ride, like immediately, like in GTA, they changed everything. Give them new outfits, new this, and took them through a hidden door inside of a tunnel. So that is the hospital that this guy is talking about. That's probably the hospital that he's been to. That was not a surprise. That was a deliberate, planned, collaborated terrorist assault between medical staff personnel, like hospital doctors and nurses, and to active duty armed terrorists with bandanas in the streets. Now, by the way, we're seeing that there's like 500 children. I went and I asked Ranfield kind of to help me summarize. Before October 7 war, Israeli hospital clinic treated tens of thousands of Palestinians' medical cases per year, mostly from the West Bank and plus several thousand from Gaza. Gaza, in 2022, about 7,000 Gazan treated in Israel via areas, and another 5,000 received permits for the first half of 2023. That's just like for 1 year. On July 2023, about 1,815 Gaza patient permit applications in 1 month, with 17 of Israeli hospitals and many others in East Jerusalem. In 1 month, like we're talking about thousands. West Bank, 8,678 patient permissions reached. 33% were for Israeli hospitals and clinic. that were allowed to go inside. 2,800. Like, the numbers are insane, man. Total reference. So we know that we're treating them for cancer, heart surgery, pregnancy and high risk birth rate, baby and child operations. If we are trying to commit a genocide on the Gazans, why are we helping them bring babies? Can I ask this question? Why is Israel so engaged in helping Gazans and Palestinians deliver babies? If we want to reduce their population, we are by far the dumbest genocidal fictional states in the world. We have the weapons to nuke them. We have the army to completely destroy them. We control everything. We control if they live or die. Israel have that power, and yet their numbers are rising up, and we're helping them bring babies. They're not helping any Israeli bring a baby. Actually, last time I've checked, they've kidnapped Israeli babies, the Bibas kids, and they strangled them to death, babies, and then smashed their heads with rocks. Whew. Wow.
And this is why, and that is a story that Tucker will never tell. That is a story that this terrible excuse for an alleged doctor will never tell. Because it isn't just the false narrative of him who's, he has buddies in Gaza and they're all nice to him. Maybe they are. Okay. I'm sure people are nice to him when he goes to Gaza or did go to Gaza or whatever. It's the complete lie that they are fabricating around the reality of what Gaza is and who Gazans are. And I hate to say that, it's, again, I'm sure there's some Gazans that we both know don't want to be there, and they don't want to be under Hamas, and they wish with everything in them that they didn't live there. And I sympathize with those people. But the fact is that when you aid and abet terrorism, you get the result of what happens when you do that. Like in the United States, if some guy robs a bank and shoots 2 people, and I hold him at my house and try to protect him, I'm complicit in that act. And if it's a mass murderer and I try to hide and protect him, I'm complicit in that act. The law treats me as an accessory after the fact, meaning I'm complicit with the crime, even if I didn't commit the crime. And so, as we've shown before, like, that is the population of Gaza. They have weapons. There's different factions in Gaza that are apart from Hamas. Maybe you can speak to that, because I'm actually really curious about that, Mansour. If you don't mind educating me specifically on what are the other factions in Gaza apart from Hamas, and even though they might still hate us, they could certainly have fought Hamas to get some kind of control over their families, neighborhoods, tribal structure, etc. What do you know about that?
So Gaza, in compared to the West Bank, is a more Egyptian Bedouin population. You have lots of family names, El Misri, and all kind of, which is the Egyptian, or different neighborhoods in Egypt.
Right.
And they see their loyalty first to their tribe, to their family. Now, Hamas, what he did is he went and he took over the government and started bringing some of these tribes inside. Now, they have a lot of beef between them. They kill each other all the time. But he kind of put a cap on it and says, let's stop killing each other. Let's go kill the Jews. Now, some of these tribes are still feeling like, they're the ones that needs to kind of be, they're loyal to themselves first. Now, where did the problem start? When October 7 happened, they were all exhilarated and happy. But when Hamas started stealing humanitarian aid and choosing who is he giving that food to, all of a sudden, a lot of these tribes, so again, it's important to know they're not innocent. Most of them are not pro-Israel. None of them, actually.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, their families are starving. Israel is asking their families to evacuate from area to area because they want to go and attack their Hamas who are hiding in the tunnels. And Hamas is not letting them go. So all of a sudden, this tribe says, why are you not letting my wife and my children? They need to go there. Can they come to the bunker with me? No, not a single child or a woman, doesn't matter, pregnant woman, a girl, none of them are going to come to the bunkers. They're only for Hamas people and for kidnapped hostages. And then they start stealing the food and shooting it. And Gaza started to starve. And then start coming conflicts, because the more that Israel, and that's the key point, the more that Israel was already killing Hamas and destroying them, Hamas's grip, they went all of a sudden from being a dictatorship, totalitarian, fanatic religious regime that is walking the streets and killing their own people, beating them up with clubs and kidnapping them and torturing them. They all of a sudden disappeared. They all went hiding because Israel was killing them. So people's voices start to go up. And then they saw how Israel was destroying Hamas. So people started to get more and more comfortable because he just saw his cousin been shot in the head because he was trying to reach to a bag of rice that was given by, humanitarian aid. Or he just saw his mother been beat up and dragged in the streets and executed because she was, she had a starving baby that you want to feed. So they started hating each other so much. And the moment that they crossed big hamulas, we call it, big tribal leaders, all of a sudden the cousin or the child of a big tribal family went to grab humanitarian aid from the humanitarian corridor and got shot and killed by Hamas for that. Then that tribe went and killed the ones who killed them, and then it started shooting and fighting. Now, Israel was very intelligent to actually tap on that. So, okay, let's see. They're fighting with one another right now. Now, we know that Hamas is the worst. Now, let's see who's under and who's under, who is not as bad, and let's help them. Because if they win, we might have someone to talk to, might have someone to negotiate. And then they found Abu Shabab, and other factions there that went boldly and said, we are going to be Robin Hood of Gaza. We are going to go as Gazans, and we're going to rob the food from Hamas, robbed it from us, and give it to our people. So they went like Ahmed Robin Hood, Ahben Hood, Mustafa Hood. They started going around, with this bunch of merry jihadists going around. We're men, jihadists in tights, and started singing. Have you seen the movie Men in Tights? Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. So they went jihadists in tights and started going and stealing the food from Hamas, who stole it from them, and giving it to these people. And then they were going around executing one another and killing one another. And until now, because Hamas have been weakened so much, some of the voices there are feeling more empowered to come and say, what is this Hamas nonsense? They're not heroes. They're not defenders. They didn't have no reason to attack Israel. They went and attacked, and then Israel came, and look what they've done to us. They've literally destroyed Gaza. So what did Hamas do to us? And when they destroyed it, where was Hamas? Hiding in the tunnels. When did they come out? When Israel agreed to a ceasefire. So people are seeing what a pathetic organization is. But the problem is that a lot of people support Hamas because Gaza is Hamas. And also, a lot of people, like some of these mothers that had their children treated by Israel were interviewed later on and said that what they wish is that their children will become suicide bombers. So someone will tell her, wait, so Israel saved your child, and what you wish is your child to go and just kill Israelis? Yes. And I want to bring more children to do that. These are real voices that we're hearing from there. There's like videos of it, interviews.
Yep.
So it's a culture of death. And even though you have these right now factions that are trying to destroy one another, they're not partners for peace. There's no real peace with Islam. And that's what I think the world needs to understand. With Islam as a theology, it's very clear about it. Islam is not hiding it. There's no room for other religions. Right. So a place like Gaza, that's my thoughts about these factions. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it's really insightful.
All right, let's keep going.
How hard was it for cancer patients to leave Gaza for treatment?
Very difficult. So there was a very laborious.
Can you hear it? It's muted on my end.
Application process.
Yes, I hear it. You don't hear it? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
The Ministry of Health had to apply to Israeli authorities.
And you hear it now?
No.
By the way, the audience in the back, you guys can hear it?
On average, about 3 months for each application to go through. These are all people with life-threatening.
Let's see if the crowd is hearing it. Ronnie Shamai, how is it for you guys to survive in Gaza? Yes, we hear. Yeah, they're hearing it. So I don't know. Maybe you need to jump out, jump back.
Yeah, let me jump out, jump back.
Time critical illnesses. So that 3 months, that cancer would change a lot. Of those applicants, about 2/3 would get through and 1/3 would be rejected. So these are people, again, with life-threatening illnesses which cannot be treated in Gaza, 1 in 3 were being rejected, so they would inevitably die. And even if they were granted permission, they were often sent out alone. So kids sent out for treatment for their brain tumor, for example, might be sent by themselves without any parent accompanying them.
Were these kids with a documented history of terrorism?
Not at all. Not at all.
Why would the Israelis prevent a child with a brain tumor from getting treatment, not at their expense? What's the thinking there?
I don't know what the thinking is. I mean, there were some patients who were accepted into Israeli hospitals, and there are many examples of that. But why?
Here is something that you need to understand. They're trying to frame it as if Israel is so evil that they're not letting patients with brain tumors to come and die. Do you know how many patients with brain tumor do you have in Syria that die, in Lebanon, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Uganda? Now, I wonder how many applications do they send to other countries? Hey, can we bring that child to you from Afghanistan, to Russia, to China, to America? And do you think America is going to take every application? Then their health system will be overwhelmed that they won't be able to take care of their own people. So the fact that Israel is allowing already countries that are at war with Israel, that want to genocide Israel, they're allowing them already to bring, and then not approving every single one of them, is not really something that you can hold against Israel. It's terrible, and I wish we could be able to help every single one of them. But we don't know the history. We don't know the background. We don't know how many beds are available. Like, imagine Israel will come and say right now, yeah, let's bring all the Palestinian patients at once into Israel, and then they will come to Israelis and tell them, sorry, guys, we can't, the beds are taken. Your child cannot be treated. There is a waiting list in Israel, like in any other country, for some of these operations. So again, we're seeing this not credible interview that is a joke. It's a joke. They're trying to hold to everything that might make Israel look bad. Meanwhile, they're not discussing at all the fact that in their hospital, they're actually torturing and executing non-Muslim patients. So how is this even a discussion? Blows my mind. I hope you're back.
Some were turned down, some were accepted. I've no idea. But it is a fact that many people were rejected despite needing life-saving treatment.
How many hospitals were in Gaza?
There's 36. I mean, the United Nations tells us there are 36 hospitals in Gaza, but some of them are very, very small clinics. So there are probably there were 4 major hospitals in Gaza: the Indonesian hospital in the north, Shifa Hospital, which is the most famous, iconic hospital in Gaza City, and then the European Gaza Hospital and Nasser Hospital in the south. Of those, Nasser Hospital, the Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis, where I was based most recently, is the only remaining large hospital in Gaza, and even that is very significantly
What happened to the other
disabled.
ones?
They've been destroyed.
Why? Let's hear what it says.
I think this is part of the whole healthcare infrastructure has been targeted in Gaza repeatedly over many years. I mean, I've been in hospitals being bombed as long ago as 2014. But in this...
Well, you were in the hospital while it was bombed?
No, I was visiting a hospital before, and then I visited after being bombed.
Now, what happened in between when you were not there? Why was the hospital bombed? We got videos. We got evidence.
That's right. We have the receipts.
We got the receipts.
Thousands, tens of thousands of rockets from those hospitals into Israel.
Yeah. That's how ridiculous this conversation. Look at Tucker's face. It's priceless.
Oh my gosh. Here. Also, so what is our what responsibility does Hamas have? It's the leader in Gaza for their health. Like, how are we responsible for their health system? If it's crap, it's their fault. How are we responsible for that? And then how are we responsible for, I mean, tell me, what would you like us to do? What is your recommendation for how many of Gazans we should accept per year? Even though we already accept thousands and thousands and thousands of them every single year for free treatment in Israel. What would you like to see? Like, how many would make you satisfied for us as Israelis to treat Gazans? Because your healthcare system, that on one hand you said was some of the brightest, smartest doctors, they're so talented, but they have no money despite billions of dollars of aid coming in. So, I mean, that's why we get, if Mansour and I get so frustrated, as along with all the other people who actually have a brain, because this is so clearly, this is a doctor. He's a smart man. So clearly, Tucker Carlson is a smart human being. He's not dumb. All I can think of is it's just a straight up satanic evil motivation here. But that's what's so crazy about this, is because none of this information is hard to find. They are clearly have created a mask of to cover what the truth actually is. For what? For what purpose? For what reason? Not one time in this entire conversation so far have any of them even hinted at some type of Hamas responsibility for, or even mentioned the October 7th attacks. They've mentioned the date, but they haven't mentioned the attacks at all. Like, it's mind-blowingly crazy.
Yeah, I think it's very,
it makes me crazy.
it's irresponsible, and I think Americans should know about this, that this is very, very irresponsible, one-sided propaganda, because they're not questioning any of the reasons that might stand. Now, you might agree or not agree, but they're not even questioning it. They're not questioning any of the facts that Hamas has been using all these hospitals as bases of operation.
And hospitals that have been bombed in this current conflict, but not prior to then. I think this is... Every single hospital has been attacked. I mean, nearly 2,000 healthcare workers have been killed during this conflict, a far greater proportion than any other conflict in living memory.
Let's talk about the problem here. The fact that they were killed is probably accurate. Now, the question is, why were they killed? Is it because Israel is trying to target hospitals? Because if they could, Israel would destroy hospitals very, very fast. They're not really bunkers. Or is it because in that culture, they've allowed their hospitals to be run by terrorists who will drive ambulances and then will stop and shoot a rocket from an ambulance, who will put rocket launchers inside of hospitals, who will build dungeons under hospitals, and will not hide any of the patients, but will hide the terrorists under it. So these things should be addressed. So we're talking about one of the most vile cultures. The Palestinian jihadist culture is one of the most wicked and vilest cultures to ever walk on this earth, at least modern history. And they're showing us how wicked they are by actually using their own fragile as human shields more than anyone else. And that is the reason that we're having here. So that is the reason.
Right.
It's not because Israel is so evil that they're actually trying to go and attack. That's not. Someone asked here how many terrorists died in Gaza. So as latest reports from Hamas, they say between 20 to 30,000, some say even more, have died out of the 60-something thousand that they claim to have died. So about half of the people who died were actual terrorists. And we do know that Hamas lies. And we do know that he used women and children and child soldiers. So it's safe to assume that even probably more. And that is just shows you the level of accuracy that Israel was able to do while fighting in their own hospitals against their terrorists to not eliminate everybody in the hospital.
Right. And that's a really important point. Even by Hamas's own numbers, which we know are not true because Hamas lies about everything, even by their numbers, this is the most ethical war that's ever been fought in modern history.
Yeah, for a fact. I know that as an officer in the army, I've never seen any military statistics or operations that come even close.
75 Gazan healthcare workers have been killed per 100,000 capita of population. 75, the equivalent number in Ukraine is 0.8. In all the other conflicts, it's single figures.
Ukraine doesn't use their people as human shields. That's first of all. Ukraine doesn't use hospitals as bases of operation. Ukraine doesn't hide behind children in kindergartens and use it as rocket launchers. Like, you cannot compare Ukraine into Gaza. It's different cultures. Ukrainian immigrants, when they went into Europe, they blended in. Like, you barely hear an increase of crime. Palestinians, when they went into Europe, like in Denmark, they're ruling. Palestinians and Somalians are, like the top reason for the spike in crime in Denmark. The government have just let the statistics out. It's unbelievable. Like, sometimes 70% of certain crime is done by Palestinians and Nigerians, and Somalians, Muslims, while they're together, they hold less than 1% or 2% of the country. So you can see there's a whole difference between the cultures. The culture that he said are just so nice. If they're so nice, then why is it that once Palestinians reach European countries, they're the number one leading in sexual crimes and fraud, in theft, in violence? Like, why is that if they're so friendly and nice? Please answer that.
Of healthcare workers per 100,000 population. In Gaza, it's 75. So there's been a grossly disproportionate killing of healthcare workers. All the hospitals have been attacked, and I think this is. I mean, I'm going to be talking to you about what I've seen with my own eyes. The disproportionate attack on the healthcare system, I think, has been a deliberate part of the Israeli policy to dismantle the whole infrastructure of living in Gaza.
Now, a lot of people hesitate before getting traditional therapies for cholesterol health.
This guy. So let's see.
I mean, I was in Al-Aqsa Hospital when it was attacked. On my first.
Was it the 50-minute mark? Where were we at? There was something that was.
This is the 36. Yeah, we said the 50 minutes. Let's go to the 50-minute, right? There was something interesting there.
I think so.
Ooh, 49.59. That was good.
Of course, none of this goes anywhere, so we don't see any actions at the end of that. But by and large, the US politicians we met were very sympathetic, but of course, it had no impact whatsoever.
Samantha Power became famous for writing a book on genocide, how we can never allow it again, and then she allowed it again. So your friend who was raped to death, your friends who were tortured, why were they detained and tortured?
I think this is there's a clear disproportion of senior healthcare workers who've been taken compared to junior healthcare workers. My presumption is, I mean, I can tell you a lot of facts about what's happened there.
I haven't heard a single fact
yet.
yet.
My opinion.
Likewise.
It would seem to me, and many others who've witnessed all of this, that this has been a deliberate policy to destroy the healthcare system.
Well, can you give us a specific example of someone you know who was detained and tortured, and what were the circumstances? How does that happen?
So they're arrested within the hospitals. So my two colleagues, one of them was arrested in the Indonesian hospital, one of them was arrested in Nasser hospital. The Israeli military invade the hospitals. They, what would appear to be fairly arbitrarily, arrest some, let others go, predominantly males. They are then taken off, and so I'll describe what happened to the last testimony I took. He was with about 20 or 30 other healthcare workers put in a big pit, an underground pit with no covering. They were stripped naked down to their underwear. They're blindfolded, they were handcuffed. They were left in a pit in the ground for 2 to 3 days. Then they were taken off to an Israeli prison.
So let me break this down for you guys. As someone who was actually an IDF officer, and I know exactly what the procedure is talking about. Israel would come and declare this is a war zone. We know that Hamas is operating in this area. Everybody get out of here. And that included sometimes hospitals. By the way, this hospital have Hamas with it, and they have hostages under it, and they have rocket launchers, and they have, the Radwan units. So Israel will come and siege that area and ask Hamas to go out. And after a long fight where they will shoot back from the hospital, Israel will come to a point where they will subdue some of them, take out many of them, and then the rest will surrender. Now you have a military compound, an undeniably military compound who was fighting ignore the instructions from Israel. And as we know, Israel offered, we'll treat these patients, bring it to us, but just get out of there. No, we're going to keep fighting. So now you have these guys, which some of them were doctors fighting with you, some were nurses fighting with you, some were terrorists fighting with you, and some might have been innocent people that were just forced to be there. How do you know who is who? How do you know? And we also know that this is a death cult that actually likes to go suicide bombing. By the way, this was used in Afghanistan by the Americans and many other places, where when you have a suicide bomber or someone with the potential of it, you tell him to strip naked. That is ABC standard operation dealing with terrorism. Why? It's very simple, because he might hide the vest to blow himself under the clothes. Take your shirt off, take your pants off, leave the underwears, and sometimes even you want to see if there's chunky kind of lumps in the underwears as well, some grenades that he's hiding there. So they will bring them naked. These people were combatant that refused to surrender until now, and only now surrendered after fighting with you. These are like literal enemies. Then they will come and be placed in these. Now, what they say pits. Let me explain to you why it's pits. First of all, there's a sniper threat all the time happening in Gaza and RPGs. So if you want to come out of your shelter and walk into an area and not be picked by a sniper, and they used to say that sometimes the life capacity of someone who is out there open in the air until a sniper shoots him down in some places in Gaza was about 2 to 3 minutes. From the moment you expose yourself, there's about 2 to 3 minutes until you get shot in the head by a sniper or an RPG. So Israel would do is they want to start taking care of these people and checking who's a terrorist and who's not, interrogating them so they know who to release and who to take, which he just admitted that this is what happened. So you build these with the D9s, these sand dunes around, that will protect you from sniper bullets. You create a barrier around, and then you have them there. You have them walk into that barrier, not standing, and then you will send your soldiers and your doctors and your translators to go and talk to them. Now, when they're there on the ground, and right now you see that they have no weapons on them, no explosives, they have a distance between them, you start calling one by one, come here, who are you, what's your name? You interrogate, you want to catch the terrorist. And many of the terrorists were caught that way because they will hide. That's exactly what you need to do when terrorists are embedded in civilian population. There's no other way around. You can come and say, I feel so bad for them. I don't want them to have no dignity and be walking around with their underwear. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to let them go, knowing that I will never catch the terrorists and I will never get to the hostages. So that's one option, which is a silly option, because then the war will never end. Or you can come and say, I'm going to do whatever it needs to right now to eliminate the terrorists and get to all my hostages. 30 of you on the ground, come here. You, what's your name? Ahmed. Come here, Ahmed. Talk to me. Show me identification. No sniper is going to blow my mind right now because I have this barrack pits in the ground. You know, show me. Excellent. Then I talk to the Shabak. What do you know? Does it make sense? His story. He said that he's the brother of Fatima and he's have a sister here. Is his story real? No, he's making it up. There's no such thing. Okay, this guy's a liar. Put him in the group of liars. We'll talk to him later. Come here, Samir. I'm Samir. I'm a father of 3. This. I'm a doctor. Here's my number. Here's this. Okay, legit. Samir is legit. We have no background of Samir. Okay, Samir, you can go. So that's exactly how you do it. And then you eliminate, you bring it down to, let's say, out of 100 of them, you have now 30 that are liars. Liars or potential terrorists or actually actual terrorists. These 30, load them on trucks, take them to Israel. We're going to do further investigation. Out of these 30, usually you will have more than 20, like more than 60, 70% sent back to Gaza. Prisoners of war, it's a real thing. They were fighting against you. They were in a war compound. So now out of the 70%, you have 20, you're left right now with 6 or 7 of them, actual terrorists. Into the Shabak and 504 kind of interrogation rooms, bam, 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 cross numbers, boom, you found it. Tunnel is here, hostages are here, go and rescue. Send the SWAT, Sayeret Matkal, they go in, they raid in, fighting, Alcatraz, go in, rescue them, flashbang, save them, run back to Israel. Bravo, terrorists are dead, our forces are safe, we rescued. And the other 60% have the very unpleasant situation where they had to walk with their underwears. But that's exactly how these operations are done. And someone who's not in the army or someone who's lying like him will just come and tell you one version of the story. They threw them into pits in the ground, like the Muslims do in Sudan to Christians when they execute them, like the Nazis did to the Jews.
And they were just medical workers. They were just medical workers.
Exactly. You know, the
They-
image they're painting here.
They were just
Unbelievable.
guys with IV bags.
Yeah, my God. KP139, that is so kind of you. Thank you so much. So he said, our BB study this morning,
Bible study.
our Bible, our Bible study this
BB.
morning, Dagon fell before the Lord. Dagon? Is that one of the people in the Bible, maybe?
Dagon.
Dagon. And they picked the idol back up. The lesson, they must prop up their desperate worldview, and they cannot afford to be wrong. That sounds like Robbie Tucker to me. They must prop up their desperate worldview. Yeah, Robbie Tucker. The day that Tucker will be called a Robbie, that would be... It's funny, actually. He is a rabbi.
He's
to
a
many
Rav.
people.
Absolutely. For
Because
millions
what is
of
a
people.
Rav? A Rav is a teacher.
Yeah.
So he's a teacher to many people, including, Christians. By the way, thank you so much for this, KP. So Dagon is a god in the Middle East. Okay.
Dagon. It's from First
Yeah.
Samuel.
Yeah. I know. I thought it was one of the people that picked up, but you meant the idol of Dagon. So, that's the lie they have when they don't know military operation and when no one is there to counter it and explain to you. That's exactly what's happening.
They were
Well,
left blindfolded.
Yeah, this guy, unfortunately, and we've seen this so many times. This is Greta Thunberg with a MD behind her name,
PhD,
right? Like
yeah.
this is, they have completely bought into the lie for whatever reason. He literally, this is the question that perhaps we'll never know. Does he really think that these are just healthcare workers? Does he really believe that? Or does he know the truth, but is actually on the side of terrorism against Israel because he, like Tucker, is anti-Israel, anti-Jewish of anything, right? So, yeah. Anyway, it's
Someone's
what's
telling me
frustrating
to slow
about
down.
this evil is that it's because when we care about truth, when you care about truth, we care about logic and reason and what we can know, right? Because I want to be on the side of truth no matter what. And when you encounter things like this, that look, 30 years ago, nobody would listen to this nonsense, right?
No.
And they certainly wouldn't have a platform for this nonsense. As bad as leftist liberal media has been against Israel over the years, my entire life, even before that, they were never as bad as this, right?
Yeah. You know what? That's true.
Not even close. They never gave Israel a fair shake. That's true. But they didn't just come out with blood libels.
There's a pattern here. There's a repeated pattern here of controlling the narrative. And when the narrative was mainstream media, there was some kind of a etiquette expectations that they will do basic research. And when they're caught lying, then they need to apologize. And even if you knew that they didn't mean the apology and that, everybody knew that they were actually, doing that on purpose, still CNN, ABC, NBC, these guys, they had to go with an apology. Yeah, we blamed Israel. It was not right. Israel didn't shoot the hospital. Israel didn't do that. It was like our fault. So that was expectation from mainstream media when mainstream media was the main narrative. But when the narrative moved into podcasters, because nobody trusts mainstream media because you see that they were completely biased, all of a sudden the whole etiquette disappeared. Like no one have any expectations from Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson to go and admit that they lied. Zero, non-existent. They don't have any incentive to do it because they're cable media, the cable people, they're all about the rating and the views. And statistically, it shows that whenever you do a video where you apologize, it doesn't do any good. It's better just to keep going. You lied, you got attention, great. Keep lying. Just keep going. It's all about how many people watch you. So now you have uncredible sources like that who just stand up and say whatever they want. No one challenged them. No one pushed back on them. And they're just bluntly lying. And in this case, most people will just swallow it as it is. Most people will not come and ask that extra question of thinking deeper, of speaking louder, of kind of trying to understand the picture a little bit better. What's behind the corner here? What's hidden? Why is this happening? Are there all innocent people or are there terrorists around? Because that changed the picture. If you come and say, there were terrorists among them, okay, then every country will do that way. Even in a hospital in Amsterdam right now, if you have a terrorist who went inside and they put a Guy Ritchie mask on everybody and put the same vest on everyone and are standing right now like V from Vendetta with everybody looking the same, you're going to call all of them out and you're going to put them on the floor. You're going to ask all of them to go naked. And then you're going to one by one, filter out who is this, because you don't know who is a suicide bomber, who is a criminal. So that's like a standard procedure. Israel didn't invent that. But they choose to go and lie. Let's hear more, because that's interesting.
Ordered, they were left handcuffed. They were beaten those first few days.
Of course they're going to be
non-stop,
handcuffed.
12 hours at a time. Many other forms of torture we've described about all along. One of my close friends, who's one of the senior deans in the medical school there, was abducted and taken away. He was only taken for, I think, 10 days and then released. But there are so
Abducted. It sounds to me like he was taken for investigation.
Yeah.
Why? Because he was part of a military compound that used to be a hospital, and they refused to surrender, and they kept fighting. And when they surrendered, take him. Just what I explained before. So he's admitting
Which
it.
also explains why Israeli security is so tight and why they ask this doctor so many questions when he's going into Gaza, because their sane point of view is, how could you be friends with these terrorists?
Yeah, that's true. If Israel knows that 10% of these doctors are active terrorists, and we've seen actually pictures of that,
Yep.
then you're going to visit which doctor?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. How
No,
do
I
you
know
know
it's a
it?
witch doctor, but which of the witch doctors?
Exactly. And why? And then all of a sudden the questions start becoming very clear. Okay, so you're visiting him. Yeah, because I care about children. Okay, then why don't you go to Africa if you care about children? What's the reason that you care only about the Gazan children? You start understanding these questions make sense.
Right.
Oh, because Gaza have innocent children. Okay. Now you're going to meet this doctor. Now they know that the doctor is a terrorist.
Right.
But they know that they want to see two things. Either you're deliberately going to support a terrorist, or you're being fooled by him.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, often they'll let you go. Okay, we're not going to stop him.
Good luck.
But he's being used as a useful idiot. Now you're hearing the useful idiot side of the story. Like this guy you're hearing it, the useful idiot side of the story.
Many
How old is he?
He is, I guess, late 50s. Yeah, I mean, and there are photographs.
Not of militant age.
Not of militant age, absolutely. Absolutely.
And what was the justification?
But
well,
what did he just say?
so they were
A 50 years old can still hold a machine gun and shoot a rocket launcher. What are you talking about? Like none of like a 50 years old cannot shoot.
I think our
Many
Milouim
of
is
these
now
terrorists
50.
were 50 years old.
Isn't Milouim now 50 instead of 46? That's
Yeah.
our reserve
What-
duty.
None of militant age. That's a category of who you should care about or not.
they were continually being grilled about, what about them being Hamas members and what they had done and all that sort of stuff. Now, there are some, so Hussam Abu Safir, who's the director of Kamal Adwan Hospital, was abducted over a year ago. Now he's still under detention in an Israeli prison. His lawyers can't get in news about him.
Sound like
There are
it's
many
when he's a
people who are
terrorist.
still there.
Yep.
We can only speculate as to why they are being taken and why they're being tortured, but it seems the deliberate, disproportionate detention of healthcare workers and killing of health workers compared to other civilians speaks to me that there is a deliberate policy of undermining, of destroying the whole healthcare system.
Are they?
In Syria, it was recorded on cameras. The government forces and Al-Qaeda and ISIS, which are the same, went in, rounded the doctors on the ground, and started executing them.
Yeah, I saw this.
And there's
Yep.
videos of the aftermath.
Yep.
Like they went into a hospital that had no combatant in it and executed and killed everyone. Pregnant woman laying on the bed was shot in the head and shot in the stomach, so the baby would not even have a chance to survive. Why is he not talking about that? We have it on video. That was the first actually real hospital massacre that was fully recorded by Islamist to Druze, to non-Muslims, and Christians,
Yeah.
by the way. There were Christians as well there.
Yep.
You see, like, this is a narrative. Wow.
Charged with crimes, put on trial.
Oh, no. None of them are charged. None of them are charged. These are all people who are detained without charge.
So just completely lawless.
Yeah, but that's been happening for, as you will know, for decades in the Palestinian territories. There are thousands of Palestinian in the West Bank who are in prison without charge, who've been in prison without charge. So this has been happening for a long time. But certainly the ones that I have interviewed and the ones I've known who've been told, no, there were no charges at all.
Here's an interesting fact for people back home when they think about, with a charge, with not. You need to differentiate between a civil arrest in your own country by the police of your own citizen who have rights by your country, to need to prove it. You need to go and do it. And he goes through the whole legal system into an enemy country where there's literally enemy combatant that have kidnapped your women and children, and time is of the essence, and are plotting suicide attacks and drone attacks and I don't know what into your own country to kill more of your citizens. They have ticking bombs and sleeping cells in your society. And then you need to understand, how do you go and interrogate someone like that? Now, I think people understand the level of legal administration that goes into that is insane. They just don't see it. We had these. When we went to arrest terrorists, we would had a legal permission to go and do it. Now, in the process of arresting this terrorist, all of a sudden, someone threw a Molotov bottle on us. And he's not in that list of terrorists that we came to arrest. And then we saw another one calling on the phone and running away. And we run and we catch him. And we see that he actually called the terrorist. And then we hear that they're running from the building right now because we're taking him as well. Mm-hmm. You're not going to stay right now inside of Gaza or Ramallah, risking your own life while you have someone you just detained that you know that there's a high possibility that is part of a bigger network of the enemy combatant network. You're going to take him. And you will have the legal right to do it because you have a valid suspicion that this guy might be involved in an enemy operation against your country. Now, when I say take it, there's also still a system. It's not like a soldier can just go take him. I like him. Let's take him with me. It's not like in what we see in Syria or Muslim countries will just come and kill the men and take the women and children. They don't need to file any appeal for that. They just, she looks cute. She's 12. I just murdered her parents, raped her mom in front of her eyes. I want to take her and make her my sex slaves. They do that. Gazans do that. Yep. Lebanese do that. Syrians do that. I'm talking to jihadists there. They do that. In Israel, a soldier cannot just go and I want to take this Palestinian. He will come to his officer and said, after he jumped on this guy, took him down, right now he's subdued. He calls on the radio, I need backup here. They come, says, listen, this guy just saw him right now. Check his phone. They go, they call the Shabak guy or someone speak Arabic. Oh, he just warned them. There's 20 guys coming our way right now, by the way, guys. All of the Khamula, all of this tribe is coming. Let's get out of here. They go out of there. They put him in the truck. They shackle him. They call the high-ranking officer. Listen, we got this guy. What do you want us to do with him? They explain to him the story. He ran it with his, commanders and said, yes, bring him. Bring him right now. We need to interrogate him. So you have established legal systems on the ground that is not the neon light processes that you will have in a Hague or in a court of law in LA. Objection, Your Honor. Have you read him his rights? Yes, I've read. Like, it's not that. This is a war zone, guys. This is a war zone against an enemy. Now, do mistakes happen? Yeah, mistakes happen. Sometimes you'll actually, under the stress and the pressure and the fog of war, you will actually pick up the wrong person. And you think you don't understand the language, they're shooting all around, and you take him out. And then after 5-6 days, they will release him. But that is, you can call it a statistic merging error, that you're saying it's not only accepted, it's necessary. In order to be able to operate like this, you need to think, okay, we have fine-tuned the system into a way that we might have 5 to 7% errors. When it comes to that, terribly sorry for that, but we still have 93 success rate in terms of obtaining the right people with these procedures of having. So it's not the soldier will decide. But that's the things that I think they're just never explained when these guys are doing that.
And look, and it's also a criticism that is only leveled by a person that has never been in the situation that we're in. If you're a person, if you live next to a town and the entire purpose of that town and every individual of that town is to annihilate you and your family the first chance they get. Now, and that's 90%, 95% of that town. Well, then no one is going to even attempt to criticize how we operate in those areas.
Yeah.
As soon as they experience that for real, and as soon as they know 2 of their neighbors that have been murdered because of that, or 10 of their neighbors, or, you know, one of my friends lost 67 of his neighbors in Bieri. Like, how do you... 67 of his neighbors in the South were murdered on October 7th.
That's a whole neighborhood.
It's everybody. He walked out of his bunker having survived. He thought his daughter was dead. He heard his daughter actually survived in the same town. Everyone was dead. Everybody. Like so as soon as you experience that and you have to live in that reality, you would never for 1 second level any kind of criticism against going and making sure that doesn't happen again. Particularly the way that we do it, which you just described, was we're literally putting our lives at risk to try to get the smallest percentage of mistakes done in order to protect the lives of our friends, neighbors, loved ones, etc.
Yeah, man, that's exactly what it is, you know. But I think in this case, this doctor is not only doesn't have the military understanding of how things work, he's deliberately siding with jihadists, and that's why he's invited to Tucker. Like, you don't get invited to Tucker's show if you have views that are aligned with, you know, Christian values, American values, Israeli values, Judeo-Christian. He's not going to invite you unless he can mock you.
Right, and this is what Tucker does best. He brings on someone he loves what they have to say. He maybe never has the cojones to actually say it himself, or to be able to articulate it in the way that this guy is going to. But he'll let you talk all day long about
and not counter you.
Or exactly, never contradict you, never ask you. It's all softball. It's all teeing you up for success in, you know, pushing this narrative of complete fabrication.
Mm-hmm. We've seen him do that, you know, with Nick Fuentes and this guy and others, or that nun that looked like he got dragged from some kind of a monastery in a horror movie, the one that would climb on the ceiling, click, 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 and curse you. So that's like, he didn't question anything.
Yep.
Yeah, he didn't question anything. But then when he had Mike Huckabee, or when he had Ted Cruz, he was like trying to roast them. He was attacking them. So we were seeing like a very clear bias.
And a lot of these are adult men with families.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them were sort of the age range of the people I know were from probably early 20s to late 50s.
Military age males.
It's shocking.
It is shocking
to me.
And having seen this, having witnessed this is why I think it is important that we tell everyone what's going on, because this is not what we're hearing from our Western media, from our governments, despite many attempts of foreign doctors who have been there to speak out.
But they're not telling everyone
accounts
what's
are
going
so
on.
shocking that the military just rolls into a hospital, abducts senior physicians, and then rapes them in prison with no charges. It's kind of hard to
believe
is this getting back to the New York Times? This is, I think he's referring to that blood libel that the New York Times posted that claims that Israelis we have trained dogs to rape prisoners. This is a real thing. This is a real thing that just happened. So Tucker, he's incorporating that. It is, first of all, dogs can't even do that.
I'm trained with these dogs. They're not trained to rape anyone. It might look like it because they're very vicious and they jump on you and they just pummel you to the ground, but they're not raping you.
Well, the only legitimacy that might be in that statement is if Hamas actually did that, because we know that everything that they claim that we do is actually something that they do. So, you know, or tried to do, you know, and that's just a fact. It's a classic form of reversal. So it's just, we were talking about this off air. That's a text and stuff coming out there. Off air. Yeah, that's right. We also train dolphins to spy on people too. But
Yeah.
and if we did do that, hey, Kolaka vote to us, right? Because that's pretty amazing. Not
Yeah.
the dog thing, but the dolphin spying thing. But now I'm on a rabbit
And
trail.
listen, actually, there is cases sometimes that dolphins will hump people. In this dolphin, like in Mexico, in Cozumel, and these places, some of these dolphins sometimes will just jump and start humping a person. And when a dolphin is humping a human, that's you're not in a place in the water. Like he takes you down, he does whatever he wants with you. So imagine like when oh my God,
train those dolphins though. We know that for sure.
We should send them to Gaza as per Tucker's
dolphin trainers.
Yeah, but here's the thing: there's not a sorry for cutting in. There's not a single video that shows IDF soldiers raping or even executing. Like, there is videos that are kind of borderline, say what happened there, you don't understand the context. But we have so many videos of the other side showing that.
Proudly
Walking with severed head, beheaded, calling the family to show them how they raped the loved ones. There's a story that happened also in one of the Muslim countries in Africa, Northern Africa, where two, I think they were Dutch or Norwegian young girls went there and they got kidnapped first thing kind of in the country by a few Muslims who took them to the desert, called their family and showed them how they're raping them and beheading them. And there was another story of another European girl that decided she's going to march into Israel wearing a wedding dress. And to kind of, and then she's going to wash her clothes only when she reaches Jerusalem. Until then, she's not going to wash it from all the dirt and etc. in a solidarity with the Muslim world and against Israel. First border she crossed into a Muslim country was Turkey. And on the border, a little bit after, she was kidnapped by a man in the street who raped her and beheaded her. Like, there's so many of these stories that actually happens all the time. No, this is to Westerners. We're not talking about right now Sudan. We're not talking about, what's happening to Christians in Nigeria, where these things are actually happening and documented. They're going around with a flashlight trying to look under the bed and they can't find anything to come and say Israel is raping. And then they come up with the most ridiculous stories. Yeah, they're sending dogs to rape. Let me tell you a story about these dogs. I used to train a lot with these dogs. I hope I'm not boring you, but we used to climb into a building and I will have the operator will give me the dog on a backpack. So the dog will be like here, his face next to me, and the dog have an earpiece. Just like, like a James Bond. Yeah. And the operator is like now in a van, like 300 meters away behind a wall, talking to the dog, and you have a camera on him and etc. Now I'm climbing and then I'm under the balcony and the snipers will tell me, okay, the balconies, people are in it, stay away. And then it's clear. The balcony is clear now. So I'll come and I'll put the dog on the balcony. And then me and the dog are right now crawling on the balcony, and on the window above us, there's like bad guys. And the dog was breathing heavily and a little bit scratching the floor. So I'm like under these guys. If they look down, like it's a problem right now. So I call the operator and says, listen, the dog is scratching the floor and he's breathing. Can you do something about it? And all of a sudden, the operator gives the dog the order and the dog goes and closes fingers, like his paws.
No.
Now he's walking without scratching the floor, like, on his paws. And then he looks at me and I looked at him and we had a Scooby-Doo moment there, me and the dog. Like I was expecting, like, is he going to start talking to me? You're making too much noise. What is it, first time? Like, I was like, what the heck? They just trained the dog to hold his breath. You can't train an animal. Like, I have no incentive to ever want to hold it. Like, it's like training a fish to jump out of the water and getting entangled. Yeah. Like, there's nothing evolutionary that will ever ask him to hold his breath. So now me and the dog are crawling, and the dog is quieter than me. And then they give him the order. And the dog, and I'm not going to go too much into details, but there's several ways that the dog can actually identify who's an alpha male and who is not, and who is actually a terrorist or an enemy and who's on his own team. Their sense of smell is so keen that you can actually train them. So he would already figure out who's probably a hostage and who's probably a terrorist, and then other indicators. So he'll know, okay, that's most likely a terrorist. And often what will happen is he will run in and we'll run in, do an operation, and there's several dogs that will go in. And almost every time you'll have a case where the dogs will be 3 or 4 of them piled over a bad guy, or sometimes even an IDF soldier that was very unlucky. And they're just kind of pummeling him to the ground, like head bumping him, not biting, head bumping, pushing him, and just pushing his face to the ground and just holding him down with every knee and also biting. And then you come and you take the dogs away, and like I'd say 95%, it was terrorists. Sometimes it was one of your friends that just didn't run out of the room fast enough. Like you have, imagine you're a counter-terrorism. We call them terror monkey. So you went on, jumped on the roof of Pocahontas with a rope. You turn around, you shoot a window with the silencer. You break the window. You go in, You take 3 terrorists down. Now you have maybe 3 seconds or 2 seconds to get out of there, because right now you eliminated all the other alphas, the terrorists. You're the alpha.
You're the alpha, right?
If the dog comes in and there's some flashback smokes grenade, he might jump on you. So you need to go and run and jump out of the window again before the dog comes at you. So if you didn't, then the dogs will jump on you. They'll come into the room all confused. Oh, this guy, get him. So it would look like they're raping him from the side, because there's like 3-4 dogs up you, like humping you down to the ground. They're not trained to rape you. They don't come take your pants down, put Vaseline and put a condom and just go and put some light music, romance, a candelier. Like, that's not what they're doing. But these guys, they believe this nonsense.
If we were writing a Fauda episode and you suggested that the dog hold its breath and retract its claws, that people were like, we're not putting that in there. No one will believe that.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Amazing.
That's true.
Amazing.
By the way, I'm playing in Fauda. I don't know if I told you. I'm playing in Fauda.
What?
Yeah, this season, the last season, I'm in one of the episodes. I'm not so sure.
Wow.
I'm really bad at following this up, so maybe they aired it already. Like usually, I'm the last one to know.
Mazalto. Man, that's amazing.
I have a talking scene there. I'm like talking to the guy and like acting. Yeah, man.
Dude, that is incredible.
Yeah, no, that's fun. It was a really cool experience.
Yeah. That's really cool. That'll be. Now I wasn't gonna watch because it's a little too real for me, But but now I will.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
The show is Fauda, guys.
Fauda.
Yeah, Fauda. It's a very famous Israeli show about an undercover unit, and it's based on real stories, often, or real units. I'm not a main actor there. I'm not a main actor, and don't have your expectations to see me right now, doing these stuff. But I got to play there, which is really cool. Let's finish this part, and then we can conclude the episode, because we're 1 hour and a half. My God.
True, given that Israel is regarded by, I think, most people in the United States as a civilized country. Maybe you disagree with their influence over our politics, but it's Israel. It's not that different from us. You're describing totally uncivilized, evil behavior, organized behavior.
I'm describing what I have either seen or what close friends have told me, and the volume of accounts that I have read, heard are overwhelming, and to me that the amount of volume of reports coming out tells me very clearly this is happening.
So after October 7th happens. Are you in the UK when that happened?
Again, don't even mention what happened on October 7th.
Yeah.
Given how familiar you are with Gaza and the crossings from Gaza into Israel, were you surprised that Hamas or militants could cross the border in those numbers without?
Oh, here comes the conspiracy that we did.
I think we're all surprised, and I think there's a huge amount we don't know about the events of that day. My concentration at the time was within 12 hours of that. I was being contacted by my friends and colleagues out there who in the very, very early days were predicting there was going to be the most almighty backlash, and that they were already on the day afterwards begging those of us who could to go out there and help them.
So they knew
his terrorist buddies were begging him to help them the day after they just came in and slaughter 1,250 Israelis, begging him to help them what?
Exactly. Like talking about, diversion of a narrative, like they invaded Israel. And you mentioned in the beginning of the episode, followed by thousands of civilians that went and followed them. That just
Yep.
woke up, by the way, and really heard about it because it was very kept secret. So the first reaction was, yes, going, and then more and more. And then they kidnapped and plundered and stole even bodies. Like there was a Gazan man that beheaded an Israeli guy at the Nova Party, I think, or somewhere, and took his head, or was he a soldier?
Right.
He took his head and hid it in a fridge
Yep.
so he can sell it one day. Like, so that's what they did, his friends, his buddies. And now they're asking them for help for what? To stay alive after what they did without giving the hostages back? That's like such a bizarre conversation.
And I if I hear one more time, oh well, I've heard stories and accounts, and I've read accounts, and I've heard stories and accounts and stories, and my friend told me this, and my friends told me that, or whatever. There's 2 million cell phones in Gaza. Show me this. Where is the evidence? Nazi Germany with black and white cameras documented the homicide of 6 million Jews, 4 million others, Catholics, homosexuals, gypsies, etc. They killed 10 million people. They documented the whole thing with paperwork and black and white cameras when it was difficult to do. And they can't come up with a single example of unrefutable evidence to back up any of the claims that he's just said.
No,
These
not a
people
single
are
one.
sick.
It's unbelievable also for so long. They've been trying to push this narrative that, we didn't even start this video with debunking the premises of genocide from the beginning, because the numbers in Gaza are growing up. The population is growing. Israel is helping them come to Israel to give babies. We're helping them to give birth. So obviously, without no doubt, it's not a genocide. Now, they're still trying to sing the same song of genocide, even though it goes against any logical definition of what is a genocide. But then they come with that, and they're trying to make these stories without a single proof of showing it. And then they will find one case where Israeli IDF soldiers might have put a barrel of a gun into the bum hole of a Nukhba terrorist. And that even got debunked quite easily, and proven not to be true. But guys, have you seen what happened in Guantanamo Bay? Have you seen what happened in general in prisons around the world? That happened to Americans, by the way. That happened to Europeans. Every place in the world where you put prisoners with a large amount of power over people's lives, and you put very, very vile criminals there, and there's a tension, there is a potential for mistreatment of human rights that democracies will give to the enemies of democracy, to the prisoners and to the enemies, prisoners of war. Now, the real question is, how does your country deal with that? Do they come and see it and promote you?
That's right.
And celebrate you and give your family money? That's what Palestine does. Oh, he's killed, he's beheaded, he's raped. Let's make him a general. Let's make him a shaheed. Let's give his family money. Or in Israel, you go to jail. That is wrong. We offer an official apology. That is a real test of these things. But, these guys.
The 8th, they knew what was coming, and we were talking to them, and people were trying to get in there right from the word go to go and help.
When did you get back into Gaza after that?
So my first trip was, we went in on Boxing Day. So December the 26th, we were meant to go on Christmas Day, and we got delayed by the Egyptian military, in fact, in the Sinai. So we went into Gaza on December the 26th, and it was the first.
Wait, did you see what happened here? When he said in the beginning they got delayed by the Israelis, Tucker went full on.
Story.
Wait,
What
they've
happened?
delayed a medical
Western doctor?
How dare they? I'm shocked to hear that. And now we got delayed by the Egyptians. Radio silence.
Understandable. Yeah.
It makes sense. It's a border.
Sure.
The first significant emergency medical teams that went in there.
What did you find when you got there?
I remember approaching it from this. We'd had a sort of very long crossing the northern Sinai, going through all the Egyptian military checkpoints, and it was I always remember there was a beautiful day, beautifully sunny, no clouds in the sky, and then you could see as we approached Rafah from Egypt, you could see as we approached the Egyptian part of Rafah, you could see this low-lying cloud over the whole of southern Gaza, which of course was smoke from the bombs, and you could smell it from about 2 or 3 miles away. You could smell the burning, and it was awful. It was awful. So
it's a war zone.
we got into Rafah. We got through the sort of the Egyptian checkpoints, then the Gazan checkpoints, and we had to drive through Rafah to get to the safe house we were living in. And this was 2.5 months into it, by which time a lot of people have been displaced from northern Gaza and Gaza City. The migration of displaced refugees from the north was like something I've never seen before. As we were driving through Rafah, and then
that's
up the
interesting
coast
because we
road
had about
towards
100,000
middle Gaza.
Israelis that were displaced from the northern part of Israel, without any, help or humanitarian aid by any foreign government. Why? Because Hezbollah was raining down terror on all the cities of the north, and we couldn't live there anymore. I mean, it's just, Mansour, I'm up to my neck in this guy. These guys, it's just a never-ending stream of, you know what?
This became more difficult than we thought. Like, I thought we are gonna have like 3 things to comment on here, but like every second word,
every second of this video
is a lie.
Yeah,
is a distortion of the truth, is like a manipulation. It's very sleazy. Let's finish this topic and then close it in. I just want to hear what he had to say when he got there.
The hospital we were going to be working in Deir al-Balah, it's impossible to put words to it. The thousands of people walking down, most of them walking, some of them in horse and cart, some of them in vehicles, who'd been displaced and were moving down south to get away from.
Why are they moving? In a real genocide, let's take right now as a benchmark Nazi Germany, the Jews were not moving. They were being moved in trains.
Corralled and then moved. Yep.
Exactly. And then they were placed in ghettos where they're not allowed to go out. They will be shot if they go out. And then they were taken into death camps where they will work, and then they will be executed in gas chambers and etc. In Gaza, what he just witnessed is the evidence that Israel has been trying to minimize civilian casualties, because they've been telling these Gazans, move from here to here because we want to attack here. By the way, we know records of Hamas many times waiting to hear when Israelis say, we are going to attack here, we want you to move here. And then Hamas will take hostages and will walk with them with a gun to their back or an explosive vest on them, and they're going to say, we're going to blow it up, and will move them to these places from one location to the other under the guise of the humanitarian corridor that Israel have said. So he's just described a humanitarian corridor by Israel.
From all the trauma. So that to me was a sight I will never forget, seeing these people. And of course, at that time, this is very early on, Al-Mawasi, which will be an area you're familiar with. It's what the Israelis paradoxically were calling the safe area, that everyone was being evacuated to the safe area. You remember that? Well, of course, it's not remotely safe. That at that time there were no tents up there at all. It was people walking there.
All right. Yeah, I think we got the idea. There's not much that these guys can tell us that we haven't heard.
Ooh,
but anyway,
Paul Morganti, co-author of The Rooted Kingdom with myself. Thanks for showing up, dude. Good to see you. By the way, Mansour, your listeners are champs.
Yeah, who's that? Who are you? Who are you shouting out?
Cole Morganti, my buddy.
Oh, okay.
He's the co-author. Yeah. Just a great crowd here today. You guys are awesome.
No, we do. We have a great crowd here. Definitely. We've been having also good questions and comments on the background. Well, guys, David called me today. He sent me a message. He says, hey, let's jump in and do a live about this Tucker thing. I think, it's an important topic to come and break it down for you. Now, if you enjoyed this kind of content and what me and David did here, then leave it also in the comment and let us know. So we will do more of these for you. I want to remind you that Mr. David here have his own YouTube channel, which is I'm going to find the link here and I'm going to share that with you. And I'm going to also send you my thumbnail, David, so you can use it if you want.
Great.
Not that I don't like yours.
It's
just
yours is
saying.
what I threw it together in 0.27 seconds.
Yeah, I forgive you. I forgive you. My my Ranfield here does a very good job with AI. So this is his channel, guys. Go and find him. His name on the channel is
It's at David Halevi Show.
yes. So it's the David Halevi Show, at David Halevi Show, exactly like this. I'm gonna copy it. Go and follow him. Last time we spoke, he was less than 100 subscribers. Now we have 116, way below what we want him to be. He have an amazing podcast, an amazing guy with a beautiful message to share. So if you haven't taken the time, go and follow him at David Halevi Show. Let's help his channel grow. I'm telling you right now, one of the hardest levels when you are a content creator that is creating content that is pro-Western values, pro-Israel, pro-Christianity, pro-Judaism, and these things, is that you are the easiest target to be shot down when you're a small content creator. Because for every video that you post out there that is pro-Israel and pro-West, there's so many haters that are just obsessed with social media that will report you, and then will shut you down. You get canceled, right, left, and center. You have no idea what's happening.
And it's happening. Yep.
Yeah. And the only chance, one of the biggest defense that we have is actually you, the viewers. Because if we have our subscribers and the viewers that come and like our videos and share our videos and watch our videos, it gives some kind of a contra to YouTube when they see, okay, people are hating it, but there's actually people that are liking it. And the comments are actually very positive comments. So maybe it's trolling. But if we don't have that, then, immediately they shut you down without even asking. So if you don't mind, please go, and subscribe to his channel and help him. And in general, every time that you find a content creator that you like that is still kind of small, don't just stick with the big ones that you already know. Go and help them. Go and help them grow and help them become strong enough in social media so they're not easily taken down.
Yeah, I mean, there's only, you do a fantastic job all the time, and other people are doing really good jobs. I'm doing what I can. But the reality is that Tucker has millions and millions of listeners and viewers, and so does Candace Owens. And so, we need to start looking at what people are saying and promoting what people are saying, regardless of the platform, instead of who. So I think it makes sense. Like, people are there that are telling the truth. You need to promote their content. People that are telling the truth, you need to promote their material, whether it's books or podcasts or whatever it is, and join in those conversations with those people. You know what I mean? Because 10,000 small creators that are telling the truth are going to overtake Tucker Carlson. I mean, that's just a fact. It's just the numbers, basic numbers, right? So, well, I really appreciate it, man. It's always a blast coming on here with you, and kvetching a little bit, but
no, that was fun, man. That was spontaneous and fun. Guys, stay tuned. We're going to be doing more and more episodes. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have David more and more here on the show, and we're going to do these videos collab. By the way, this one was aired and streamed on his channel as well live, so he finally figured out how to do that. So for the next one as well, it's going to be happening on both channels. I want to remind you to do the whole shebang: like, share, subscribe. Go check my Patreon if you want to find financial, practical, direct ways to support the work. Because after all, I'm doing this out of my own time and out of my own pocket and freely. And the only thing that is supporting me right now is actually the views and what you guys are watching. So it just shows you, by the way, that this channel is alive thanks to you. And it's literally doing and growing thanks to you. There's no other outside sponsorship that is helping us here. And I'm just extremely thankful for everyone that came and watched. And I want to remind that you share this with other people. But in general, by the way, it's a Druze holiday now. So if you have any Druze friends, call them, share. The Druze, the way we celebrate it, it's called Eid al-Adha, which is very similar to the Islam, but we don't have the Islamic kind of teachings in it. And I think the Druze, because they were living under Islam for so long, they had to celebrate some of their holidays. So they took out the Islamic symbols of that, and they just brought the fun. Let's have a lot of meat, slaughter a sheep, and make a lot of yummy food and eat. So most Druze, when you talk to them about this, they'll tell you, it's the holiday about the sacrifice when Abraham had to be tested if he's going to sacrifice his son Isaac. Yeah. And then he decided not to, and he was giving, a lamb. And what was it, a lamb or
Ram, yeah.
A ram. Yeah, it was even a ram, and then he sacrificed it. So we just took it as an excuse to eat food, which is very similar to most Jewish holidays. If you
That's
look
right.
at Jewish holidays, they always say, "Someone tried to kill us. We survived. Let's eat."
Let's see.
So the Druze kind of have the same idea here. So yes, Eid al-Bakra, wallah. So happy holiday to anyone who's watching this as well. God bless. Stay safe. See you next time.